Do you know what we call black people? We call them kala. It means black, not in a good way. If someone in your family is dark-skinned, we clown them. We call them kallu. Look at kallu.
It's up to us to make the change.
All of your examples of oppression or people going through struggle were all from the black community.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but this reads off to me as jealousy. This man is jealous that one racial group's problems is being talked about and not his own, and they're being talked about from the people at the highest point of the racial hierarchy. I feel like a lot of people of color feel that white people don't talk about the issues in their racial group enough, the issues that, we can all argue white people have caused. And I feel like when they hear white people talking about our issues, it pisses them off because they feel like their issues aren't represented in the same nature. But instead of being mad at white people, they're mad at us, and they're mad at how active and loud we are about our problems, except when they need us to act for them because they feel like our tactics work. Because then they pull that POC unite. The thing is, these groups need to learn that they will never get anywhere hating on black people. And they will never get anywhere trying to kiss the YT man's ass. If you feel like your problems are not being talked about, be louder. But don't get mad at one specific group because they're doing what they have to do to be seen.
I think you build a foundation of your speech on working against identity politics. Yet, I think so conveniently, and it was kind of ignorant, that all of your examples of oppression or people going through struggle were all from the black community. So if you could so conveniently use one specific ethnicity to kind of propagate your ideals, is that not identity politics in itself?
You allege I only spoke about what black people face in this society and that that's a form of identity politics. In fact, it is not. First of all, I spoke about the Bangladeshi women in the sweatshops sewing our clothes. I talked about women who've been forced to have children against their will in that form of enslavement. I spoke about trans people who have faced over 500 laws this year introduced or passed, not to mention the terror that's enforced against them. I spoke about what happens on this planet as a whole as it is heating due to the destruction of climate change driven forward by the system of capitalism, imperialism. So if you missed all that, I'm not surprised if you also missed some of the scientific undergirdings of it. But to be fair, I will walk through it again. I speak about black people in a very pronounced way when we come to revolution because the exploitation, the enslavement, the dehumanization, and the degradation that's been inflicted on black people is foundational to this society and this system. And that is scientifically a fact. It's evidence-based. The wealth of this country, the territorial reach of this country, the military strength of this country got its roots in American slavery, the chattel slavery of black people. And then on that foundation, the ideology of white supremacy, of black inferiority was propagated. It was made a bedrock of one of the glues of this society, and it has been woven into this society ever since. The forms of oppression have changed. It took a civil war to end slavery, but then what happened? After not even 10 years of Reconstruction, where black people were brought into some rights within this country, that was betrayed. The troops were pulled out, and black people were re-enslaved in new conditions, slavery by another name, sharecropping for generations, serf-like conditions enforced through terror, lynch mob terror and violence. And the troops were pulled out to go and finish off the extermination of the native peoples. Okay? Then another generation comes up in the face of changes in the U.S. economy and the need to pull black people out of the South and into the factories. Black people stood up and they waged struggle in a civil rights movement. They gave their lives. They stood up. White people stood with them. They went down from the north and stood with them. This upended Jim Crow. It was heroic that many did just unbelievably brave things. And then that was dismantled. And what did this system come back with? A new Jim Crow of mass incarceration that has ground up millions of black lives. So when I tell the story, this is science, when I tell the story of a black woman in Harlem with binoculars next to her window watching in terror every time her 12-year-old, 13-year-old son crosses the street because of what police do every day to black people, every fucking day. When I talk about that, that is a particular that concentrates a huge reality that is defining to this country. And that's scientifically true. It's evidence-based. It's woven into the fabric of this society. It's culture, it's economics, and it's global reach. And so we could debate. If you want to argue that's not scientific, bring some evidence. If you didn't hear the science, then please. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Tell me that it's a marginal thing. Tell me that to talk about that, I'm pimping off of it. I'm acknowledging reality. You want to say it's not defining to this country, that we shouldn't talk about it?
I want you to talk about it.
I am talking about it, yeah.
Okay, so just the fact that something actually happened or is true,
Yeah.
doesn't, anything that's empirically based is not science, right? It's like saying anything that's true is scientifically, like, it's science. It's not. So I understand.
Okay. Okay. Let me help. Oh, go ahead. Maybe he should get the mic.
I understand that your point is I want to be building arguments based on reason and rationale.
Here, take the mic just so it gets.
I understand that your point is I want to be building arguments on reason and rationale, but that doesn't mean that it's scientific, and that doesn't mean that it's false or wrong.
Okay.
I'm saying that the validity of your argument doesn't increase by throwing the word science out. Is all I was trying to say.
Okay, so I would argue that science actually can be applied to all of reality, not just narrowly in engineering or in the natural sciences. No, this is important. What you're raising is widely felt, it's widely believed, it's widely taught, I'm sure, on this campus, that you can apply science to medicine, to nature, to the natural world. There's the hard sciences, but when you get to social reality, it's just opinions, it's experience, whatever. No. You can apply science to everything. Everything that is part of reality, which societies are, can be analyzed scientifically. Yeah. All science means, in a universal sense, is it's an evidence-based process. You gather evidence about reality, and you look for the deeper causes of the patterns in reality. And you can apply that to a society, just like you can apply it to a rainforest, just like you can apply it to a virus. You can say, what is the most defining thing about any given society? What undergirds it? What are the laws and its functioning? And a scientific analysis of this society says the most defining thing about this country is it's a capitalist, imperialist mode of production. That all of our needs are met through exploitation and people laboring in conditions all over the world to get the food we need, the clothes we wear, the pens we use, the microphones. All of this is created through global networks of production. And that all of our cultures, all of our ways of living, all of our ways of relating grow out of and have to reflect and more or less correspond to that. And so when we live in a society where the exploitation and oppression of black people has been woven into that mode of production all the way down to today, it leads to the culture and the society and the kind of police terror that we have today. That's applying science to a social contradiction.
I honestly do find it a bit frustratingly weird when different groups of immigrants arrive in the United States of America and they want to equate themselves to the Black Americans. Because Black Americans, here's a problem. Black Americans are hosts in that country. They are not immigrants. They are not guests. They are foundational to what we know as the United States of America today. They didn't just come the other day. So in this video, we're focusing on I came across some videos of some Indian immigrants complaining that Black Americans tend to get more attention, more discussion, more space than them and than other minorities. And probably what their ignorance is all about is they don't understand a bit of history, that Black Americans are not just any other kind of minority in the United States of America. And this is what colonial education does. And this is what their thinking also does to them. I understand that most Indians historically come from the caste system. And the caste system, in as much as sometimes they try to deny, where it's a rigid system where Black people and dark-skinned people are on the lowest levels of society, class-wise. So now they come with that kind of legacy, and they don't understand why Black people, when suddenly they come to America, and that's not the case. So let's interrogate this, and let's watch some videos here, and I'll be back with some good commentary.
All of your examples of oppression or people going through struggle were all from the black community.
Go back and watch the original video because she reads his ass for filth. The reason why the school that you're going to isn't segregated is because of the work of black folks. The reason why you are not immediately in shackles, I guess, because you're still a slave here, by the way, is because of black people. You're welcome. Y'all want our culture. You want our food. You want our dances. You want our medicine. You want all the things that black people are and provide. But you don't want to read a book. And that's weird for me personally. Y'all don't come over here and like read any type of anything outside of your anti-black rhetoric that you're given from your parents and from other folks who tell you that black people are the reason why this country is whatever. The reason why this country is a foundation at all is because of our labor. Our fucking labor, by the way. And it makes me so crazy to see other brown and black folks, because let's not, Africans have their own words for us. Africans have their own like diaspora war issues with us. But the reason why you're over here is because of black Americans. The reason why you're over here and thriving is because of black Americans. We ain't seen not a fucking lick of reparations, not a lick of it. But y'all got grants, y'all got all types of fucking businesses and shit, thriving businesses. Do you know why that is? I don't think they know why it is. And that's your fucking problem. You're gonna end up just like these white folks, ass the fuck out. And black folks are gonna be fine, specifically black women. I don't have any hope for black men, but that's another story for another day. Brown immigrants will get this one whiff of white supremacy, what do you call them shits? Benefits, white supremacy benefits, and they don't let go. They love it. They love some white supremacy benefits. Y'all have fun with that shit. Really thrive with it. I hope it works for you.
On working against identity politics, yet I think
it's funny to see how y'all want to be in close proximity to whiteness, but at the same time, you know what? I'm not even gonna say shit, and no other black person should even say shit, because right when this shit blow up in their face, laugh. That's what I'm gonna do. Laugh, bitch. Because you know what? When they overturned Roe versus Wade, that was meant for white women. And now white women can't even get close to a hospital to get abortion safely, because guess what? We took their rights away. That was never meant for no black person, no POC, but it was meant for white women. And now they overturned the affirmative action and all that shit. Bitch, that was meant for whites. It was never meant for blacks. Yeah, it was nice to have it for us to make sure we was included in bitch ass shit, but majority of those universities and stuff was not filled with black people. They were filled with white people. Sprinkle a little black, sprinkle a little Asians, sprinkle a little Hispanic. Baby, it was never meant for us. So therefore, I don't give a fuck no more. Baby, I never gave a fuck. However, this shit is fucking funny to watch, because this shit is gonna blow up in your face. And do not look for the black woman vote, because guess what? I cannot see. I am fucking blind, bitch. I don't know a damn thing. And when that revolution happened, bitch, I got that blicky for your ass. Just know that, bitch. I don't give a fuck no more. Maybe y'all want to be in so close of proximity to whiteness that you don't realize that they're using y'all asses. You never gave a fuck, so baby, guess what we gonna do? Not give a fuck either, because let's call a spade a spade. We told y'all. We've been telling y'all for years, for decades. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and so on and so forth. So therefore, when this shit blow up in y'all fucking face, guess what all the black people gonna do? And I mean it. And not y'all coon ass black people. I mean seriously. Turn the other way. Don't give a fuck. You think they give a fuck about us? Let that ingest in your fucking brain, bitch.
all of your examples of oppression or people going through struggle were all from the black community.
And that really bothered him. That really did. That tore him up. I don't know what this is about, but I'm noticing an uptick of South Asian people coming out of nowhere, like trying to minimize and like explain the black experience. And I don't like it. Like this is like the fourth, I think, South Asian person. You have the guy with Don Lemon on CNN. You got Ozu, who just got on Twitter talking about talking about Joy Reid and now this situation. And I'm gonna need y'all to stop. It's like, stop it. Like, you're not us. You know what I mean? Like, you're not us. You know, we may have certain experiences where we parallel in that way. Like, both of our cultures deal with colorism. But it's rooted from anti-blackness. Like I say, you have experiences that parallel, but it's not the same, you know? So, like, don't do that. But that aside, you know, for some people, it's just easier to believe the hype. He clearly has bought into that whole illusion of, you know, here in America, we don't see color. And it's all about, like, your character, your content of your character. You know, it's all about that. It's all about the things. It's all about, you know, it's all about who you are as a person. And not about, like, what you look like. You know, he bought into all of that. I'm sure he brought into the whole idea that Black people were lazy and that we complain a lot and that we're ungrateful and blah, 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 blah. So, like, for him, I'm sure hearing this and it doesn't help that he's hearing it from a white lady, honey. It's really stinging him, I bet, on that part. So it has to be true because a white person is saying it. So I know that's tearing him up too. But it's just like, you know, it is what it is, you know. I would like to think that after getting reamed by this lady, honey, that he went home and, you know, started his path to unlearning all of the BS that he learned and was subjected to in his, you know, growing up and development and navigating the world as a brown person. You know, maybe not, you know, it is what it is. But our history is well documented, you know. That's why they're working so hard to try to keep it from being in schools and things, because the history is well documented. The truth is out there. You just got to go look for it. Period.
I think you build a foundation of your speech on working against identity politics.
Honestly, I wish the ancestors of Black Americans did not fight for the descendants of these ungrateful MFers. Because, let me tell you, before I get into what I'm finna say, the revolution will not be televised. Now, with that being said, I hope all y'all Indians, Indians are Asians, unlike, you know, the continent or whatever. All y'all non-blacks, especially y'all non-black Americans, y'all are going to be in this on your own. And when the revolution do start, please, for the love of God, do not look for Black people. And for Black people, do not try to help them, because people of color solidarity does not exist, and it damn sure does not include your Black ass. So when these people be realizing that they're not white, because in their head they believe that they white. In their head they believe that they're one step above Black people. When the revolution happen, y'all asses are going to be the first ones stuck, confused, and most likely dead. Because I promise to God, I'm fighting with a smile on my fucking face. I got a 4-5 and a 2-2. Which one you want?
I think you build a foundation of your speech on working against identity politics.
This is why when people say, well, Todd, you're a person of color. No, I'm not. I'm Black. People of color do not like Black people. They do not want to have community with us. They make that very clear every fucking day. I won't say all people of color, but I'll say enough do shit like this. If you can't undercut us, you want to use us as a prop. I don't like that shit. Compound that with the fact that every community in the world has their own form of anti-Blackness. Hello? One of these things is not like the other. So no, I don't really want to be looped into a group of people who would throw me under the bus without a second thought if they thought it would put them ahead. A lot of people of color, like a lot of white people, like Black people for the service that we provide you, for the culture that we provide you. You don't see us as people. So no, we're not BIPOC. I'm Black.
You build a foundation of your speech on working against identity politics.
This why I only speak on Black issues. I will never consider myself BIPOC because the IPOC don't like us. Like, I've never met a group of people so freaking ungrateful in my life. Like, I don't get it. The reason why you have all these rights in the first place is because of us. It's because of us. When y'all need us again, don't call us no more. Because y'all gotten y'all reparations. We ain't even gotten a fucking I'm sorry. You know what? Screw y'all.
of your speech on working against identity politics. Yet,
as of now I see why a lot of black people do not like calling themselves or like to align themselves with quote-unquote POC. Yeah. This is total bullshit.
all of your examples of oppression or people going through struggle were all from the black community.
An Indian American, he realized the only way that he would be accepted at med school would be to pass as black. He chronicled his experiences in his book, Almost Black, the true story of how I got into medical school by pretending to be black. VJ Chokal Ingham joins me now. So you were studying statistics at the University of Chicago, and you say to yourself, I don't stand a chance with my 3.1. What did you do?
Well, I shaved my head, I trimmed my eyelashes, and I decided to join the organization of black students so I could apply to medical school as a black man. I also used my middle name, Jojo. I subsequently interviewed at medical schools across the country and managed to get waitlisted at Washington University and the University of Pennsylvania, then ranked the second, the third, and fourth best medical schools in the country, and got into St. Louis University School of Medicine, despite the fact that my pretty pitiful 3.1 GPA was dramatically lower than their average of 3.7.
Where did all the hate for India come from? I don't know if this is just an American thing, but like I've just been seeing it a lot lately, and it's just in random videos.
So I have been trying to figure out really the best way to address this without getting outright canceled, but I'm not sure there's a way to do that. So I'm just gonna say it. And if you have to unfollow, so be it. We as Indians are not responsible for Indian hate, but we do 100% contribute to its proliferation. I know that's hard to hear, but let me explain. The problem is twofold. While the West treats Indians, and honestly, to some degree, all South Asians as a monolith, we are aware that that is not the case, and certainly do not treat each other that way. We are so desperate to clamor for hierarchy amongst ourselves. Whether you're a Punjabi mocking Gujaratis for their motel chain, or a Gujarati mocking a South Indian for his skin tone, we are often awful to each other. Hell, we allowed a comedian like that Akash Singh to build his entire platform off of pathetic early 2000s era stereotypes of us. People like us sit in the audience and clap as he just mercilessly mocks us for how we look and what we eat and who we love and how we worship. And Americans pay him handsomely because that's how they want to see us. Guys, sometimes the call is coming from inside the house. The second problem here is that this desperate pursuit of proximity to whiteness is a hell of an addiction. When you are fighting to be part of a group that wants nothing to do with you, that hates you for your very existence, and you're willing to grin and bear your way through things like this.
Bill would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
And not bat an eye at things like this and this. I have brown guys in the comment section of my video on the VIP list just defending their racism. See, it's one thing to tolerate cultural appropriation because you consider it acceptance. I'm not gonna fight with you on that. But it's another to tolerate overt disrespect. So honestly, why should they be expected to respect us when we can't even respect ourselves?
Hi friends, I hadn't planned on making another video right now, but Indian people are coming for me in my comments. And so I know I'm on the right track with what I'm saying. But what I want to talk about in this specific video is Indian people and anti-Black racism specifically. So whether this is within the country of India, or whether this is when Indian people immigrate to any part of the world, whether it be on the African continent, in North America, South America, wherever, Indian people have. And again, I'm not saying every single Indian person, but I'm talking about Indian people generally, our society, our culture, the belief systems that Indian people hold, etc. Indian people are extremely, extremely racist, especially towards Black people. And if you take a Black person who has been around Indian people for any period of time, Black people pick up on this. It's something that is, this is not a secret. Whether you're talking to, say African students who study in India, which there are African students who are there, or whether you're talking about, say, Kenyans. There's a large population of Kenya that are Indian people that have immigrated to that country, or South Africa, or Canada, or, the United States, whatever. But Black people pick up on Indian people's racism because it is quite apparent. It's something that that is there. It's obvious. So I'm just going to give you an example of me, my family, and the Indian people in South Africa. When I grew up there, I spent the first 12 years of my life under apartheid. So we had servants, maids, cooks, gardeners, etc. And all of these people were Africans. They were Black people. And all of the Indians in South Africa had servants. Okay, they were all Black. Now, how were these servants treated? They were treated as subhuman. They were not considered to be human beings with feelings. They drank out of different cups. So Indian people would not share their table with the servants, who were an integral part of their household. They took care of their children. They drove them everywhere. They cooked for them. But they had to eat off of separate dishes. They could not sit on the furniture. They, say, for example, when we left our home and we traveled, so we lived in Pietermaritzburg, we traveled to Durban on the weekends, holidays, whatever. Our maid would come with us. She was not allowed to sleep on or sit on our furniture or sleep on our furniture, so she had to sleep on the floor. These are things that all Indian people did in South Africa. And now I'm just talking about South Africa. I'm not talking about, say, when Indian people immigrate to other countries. But this is true even in first generation Indians. Because, say, if an Indian person had to marry a Black person, 9 times out of 10, that Indian person's family is going to completely disown the Indian person who married a Black person. Now, Indian people generally, they want Indian people to marry within their they want Indian people to marry other Indian people, and then they even go into they want the same caste, and they even have subcastes and all of this stuff. So, but if an Indian person marries a white person, or say an Asian person, it's not considered to be as heinous of an act as if an Indian person married a Black person. So this can be tied to the caste system because, like I mentioned in my previous video, Indian people are racist towards other Indian people. And some of this is based on skin color. It's not entirely based on skin color, but there is a factor that is, that is apparent in that. So Ava DuVernay made a movie called Origin, and it's based on Isabel Wilkerson's book Caste, which somebody just pointed out. And it's very difficult for me to talk about these very heavy topics in 10 minutes. So I can't cover everything, but Indian people are inherently racist as a culture and as a society. And then within that racism, there is a hierarchy. So yes, while an Indian society might be racist towards Western people, Western culture, white people, etc. Just like Vivek Ramaswamy making that comment about how, he made all these disparaging comments about, Americans. And he was talking about white Americans, how they're not as smart and blah, blah, blah. These are not uncommon things that Indian people say within themselves. I have been privy to these conversations in whether it's, say a friend situation or families or extended families or just in my Indian community. These are very common beliefs that most all Indian people will espouse. They will say things like, well, white people have no culture. Their food is horrible. They just go on and on and on. But when it comes to Black people specifically, Indian people, have extremely racist views about Black people. And it doesn't matter how nice this Black person is, how educated they might be. None of those things matter. And that's why I say that a lot of Indian people, they align themselves with a very far right-wing kind of Trump ideology. So you might take somebody from, say, America, who is a Trumpster, and they espouse all these very racist views. And you could take an Indian person, and in many respects, those views are going to align, because Indian people generally tend to hold very racist views. It goes back to the caste system, yes, but it also ties into other aspects. Because, as I pointed out before, there are the so-called untouchables in India, and Indian people are racist towards them as well. So this is all a very, these are complicated things, and I'm just trying to do my best to share these ideas, because we are in terrible times right now in the United States and in the world generally. So I guess Indian people, if you guys want to come for me, come for me. I am not saying anything that's untrue. This is the truth, and I think it's kind of an open secret.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing this up. I've spoken about it at length on other platforms, and the truth is, yeah, there is a lot of anti-blackness in the Indian community. Just in the comments of this video, you can see a creator who responded to my videos like 4 times, super defensively, upset that I was implying all Indians are bad allies to other people of color, even though I literally didn't even talk about allyship to other people of color, because a lot of Indians get really defensive when they realize some of the criticisms I'm talking about can also apply to allyship to people of color, and they don't like that, and they get very defensive. And number 2, there was a commenter who started off by being like, you're lacking a lot of nuance. My family wasn't privileged. I grew up in the South, and Black people were super racist to me. Black people robbed my family a ton, and it just devolved into a bunch of racism, and they didn't even use the word Black people. So over and over again, we see creators and research to show that India has a huge anti-Blackness problem, that Black travelers hate going to India because there's so much racism. And even within India, there's so much colorism, where South Indians or people with Black skin in South India are treated so poorly by people in North India because they think that South Indians like me are uglier or less pretty or more adjacent to Africans. And I remember so much anti-Blackness in my extended family growing up, where they would say the most horrific things about Black people being less smart, educated, hardworking, or deserving of all of the things that Indians have, or that Black immigrants were fine, but that Black people who were native to the United States were not as good as immigrants. So as an attorney, I've worked in criminal justice reform, I've worked in race rights and discrimination, and I know the unique struggles that Black people face in America and are now facing from immigrants of a lot of different backgrounds, because immigrants keep trying to distance themselves from Black people while also taking the benefits of the fact that Black people are always at the forefront of fighting for anti-discrimination and fighting for people not to be treated badly. So I think one of the big ways to fix this is for people to stop blaming colonialism and start taking some accountability for the fact that there's still anti-Blackness. A lot of Indians will say, oh, it's all the British people's fault because they turned us against Africans and they implied that we had to be better than Africans in order to not become slaves and all of that stuff. And okay, that is true. And it was so bad. Colonialism was bad for everyone. But also today, we can take accountability for the way we treat people. We can say, hey, despite the fact we all had a terrible, terrible colonial past, we need to be treating our Black brothers and sisters as better than we do. We need to stop implying that dark skin means that you're a worse person. We need to stop treating people in our own country who have Black skin or darker skin as worse than people who have lighter skin, meaning in India. And in the United States, we need to realize that Black people are our allies and that we need to support Black rights, not just because a rising tide helps everyone, but because Black people built the country we chose to immigrate to. We owe them a lot of stuff.
So this is like, from a young age telling children don't play with Black kids. And so yeah. I have somebody who told me that they grew up in an all-white community and they had been living in that community for 7 years before a Black family moved in, and the person had befriended the Black child, and they were playing in their house, and their dad came home from work, and when the kid left, the dad said, you cannot play with that person anymore. You're not allowed to play with this Black neighbor. Mm-hmm. And the person who reached out to me said she was so upset and asked, why would you say that? And he's like, well, the white neighbors just accepted us, So we don't want to go backwards. Nobody wants this Black family to live here. So we don't want to be friends with them. Otherwise, it's going to look like we're supporting them, and we want to be, accepted and, appreciated and continue to, have the status that we earned in the last 7 years.
Right, and that's actually a reoccurring story that I heard as well. Like, no, you can have white friends, you can have other Asian friends, but not Black friends. And, I think a lot of this, there's maybe fear behind it, being scared of the unknown, not knowing Black people, on a personal level. And I think, what we've also gotten some feedback of, resistance to this conversation.
All right, so misplaced rage, aiming at the wrong target completely. When immigrants complain that, Black Americans get too much attention, they are directing the frustration at the wrong people in the first place. Because Black Americans in the first place did not design the American racial hierarchy, and Black Americans did not write they are not the ones who are very much involved in writing immigration policies. And Black Americans do not create white supremacy. If white politicians, white media, white institutions constantly reference Black people, it's not because Black people are privileged. No, it's because Black people are central to America's unresolved problems. We're talking about slavery, Jim Crow, mass incarceration, economic exclusions. These are people who have had to endure all of this, and suddenly they are at a place where they are today, and you want to be like them or better than them, and you haven't gone through what they have gone through. It should not make sense. So if immigrants really feel ignored, the question should be, why does whiteness decide whose suffering matters? Not why Black people are visible. Now, maybe also we can highlight Black Americans, that Black Americans are not immigrants, and so they can never be equated with the immigrants, because and this is really where colonial education really does the big damage. Black Americans are not an ethnic group that moved to America just a few years ago. These are people forged inside America through violence, unpaid labor, resistance, just to name a few. You cannot equate someone whose ancestors were forcefully brought to that land, for example, to someone who just arrived by choice, through visas, through education, through employment programs. They're not the same. These people are not the same. And that distinction really matters, To demand equal footing with Black Americans while ignoring this kind of history, or how the immigrants get to America and how Black Americans find themselves in America, is like walking into someone's house and asking why the owner gets, more say than the guest, and that's not equality. That's historical amnesia, I can call it. Now, caste thinking, caste legacy crossing borders here. This is what is at play. And let's talk specifically about the context with the Southeast Asians. That's India and countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan, those countries with Indian people, because this is the uncomfortable truth, but necessary. Indian society has been deeply shaped by the caste system, a very rigid hierarchy where dark skin and blackness have historically been placed at the bottom. And that ideology doesn't disappear suddenly when they move to other places, to other countries, because that's the same problem Indians face against Africans in mainland Africa. They want to come to Africa and they suddenly want to, segregate from the Africans who are the hosts originally, and they want to, appear like they're better because they come with the legacy of the caste system. So when some Indian immigrants arrive in the US and see black people historically dehumanized where they come from, and suddenly they see them occupying moral, political, cultural centrality, it kind of creates a cognitive dissonance for them. You know, in caste logic, blackness is supposed to be beneath, you know. So in America, Black Americans are hosts. They're not what they are taught in their system to be. That clash kind of produces a sort of resentment, not reflection. And instead of unlearning the caste conditioning, you know what happens? Some choose to accuse black people of getting special treatment or complaining too much. But then it's voice, not favoritism. That is the case here. And this is the uncomfortable truth that immigrants need to understand. Black Americans are hard because they speak and they are strategic. They organize, they protest, they document, they refuse silence. They have been oppressed by the system in this country and they have always had their way around it. So they know the system, they are part of the system, you know. No one handled, you know, Black Americans' visibility somehow. They are not awarded visibility easy. It's forced out of, you know, America at a great cost. They are seen out of their fight, their struggle. You know, if other other immigrants feel unseen, the solution is not resentment and being, you know, it's not hate towards black people. It should be maybe political courage, them being able to speak aloud, them being able to, you know, strategize and organize, maybe copy and get some you know, notes from the black community on how they got to be very visible in that country. But you can never be the same as people who have had to go through all the history that they have gone through that you cannot even understand, you know. And now there's maybe also they should talk about building coalitions. See, even other different immigrants go to America and they don't know each other. They don't even work together. So they need to maybe understand that it is about building coalitions, speaking collectively, and challenging white supremacy directly, which is simply very, very complicated, you know. Only Black Americans understand the complication of the whole thing in the context of America, instead of hiding behind black struggles while resenting black outcomes. You need to learn from them. So Black Americans will never be just another minority in the United States of America. It is impossible. America exists as it does because of black people, economically, culturally, politically, morally, in all senses, you know. The truth that makes many people uncomfortable, especially those arriving from societies built on rigid hierarchies, like the caste in the Indians context, you know, this is uncomfortable truth, you know. But discomfort is not oppression. If immigrants truly want maybe justice or to be heard, the work begins with unlearning colonial caste logic. In this particular example, not competing with Black Americans for legitimacy in a country where these people are hosts. These people have built. It is their own country. You cannot have the same say as your host and you're just a visitor. Yeah, so something to learn by the immigrants. All right, so that is that for this video. Share with me what you think in the comment section below and give this video a thumbs up, share it, subscribe to the channel if you like what we do, and I'll see you in the next video.